So Loki Season 2 just ended. If you're watching this, you're probably already sold on the show and just want to see someone affirm that you're not crazy. Well, I've got some good news. I'm on your side, guys. However, if you happen to be one of the few who haven't watched the show yet and are considering it, listen up. I'm about to tell you why Loki is a far better show than it has a right to be. It's a show that's a weird outlier out of the Marvel schlog that they post on Disney+. It's the 1 in a million diamond in the rough. Look, I know keeping up with Marvel lore is exhausting, but not only did this show distinguish itself as a show that you could enjoy outside of the regular MCU, but it also gave us something that Marvel has failed for a long time, and that is a unique voice. Without further ado, this is why you should give Loki a chance. When Season 1 of the show was first announced after the release of Avengers Endgame back in 2019, I gotta say, much like the rest of you, I was confused. Why would you make a show about a character who died 2 years prior? But then it all got explained. This would be a version of the Loki character from 2012, right after the original Avengers movie took place. And as expected, there was a fan outcry. I'd honestly say rightfully so. Why would they make a show around a character that nullifies all the development he had in the later films, while also diminishing the on-screen death we've already experienced? Why can't a character just stay dead? It really took the wind out of Marvel's sail, if you ask me. Once they opened Pandora's box on time travel and Endgame, there was truly no going back. But it also gave Disney a chance to have their cake and eat it too, by killing their licensed characters to get people emotional, but also bring them back for their own convenience. Yeah, fuck good writing, money's more important. Truly, Loki as a show was something I had no interest in seeing, simply because its mere existence as a concept was so annoying. Not to mention, and I know this is a hot take since there's a lot of Tom Hiddleston stans, many of which were psychotic fangirls, but I'm not really a fan of Loki. In all his appearances, he's always outshined by someone else. I always cared about Thor more than him, even Hela was a cooler Asgardian. To me, he was just a mischievous, quirky side character that Tumblr girls could project themselves onto. But then the show came out. I guess it was a Friday night, I had no plans, and Disney Plus was already on a downward spiral that piqued my curiosity. Prior to Loki, WandaVision had flopped, and Falcon of the Winter Soldier was arguably even worse. Call me a nihilist, but I kind of relish the feeling of Disney's downfall being their own greedy ambitions. With everything working against this show, I decided to turn on Loki and give it a go, fully expecting nothing good. Loki caught me by surprise. I should note I had never watched any trailers or knew anything about the premise before the show other than the fact that Loki was from 2012, but here we were. I was launched into a Doctor Who style science fiction world known as the TVA. For once, this show had me intrigued. This was a side of Marvel that had yet to be explored. Guardians of the Galaxy and the later Avengers movies had already covered most of the cosmos, making space exploration not that exciting anymore. Meanwhile, Thor movies covered Asgard, so there really wasn't much interesting to offer there either. We had covered all the bases. This was for once something new that the MCU had to offer. I found the concept of the TVA kinda interesting and really meta. They're an organization designed to keep the sacred timeline from branching off into different multiverses. And again, this was before all the multiverse stuff became overdone, I should note, but even if that wasn't the case, they put a lot of personality into the TVA that I honestly wouldn't have minded. I love that futuristic weapons and outfits directly clash with the 70s dial-up computers and old dusty libraries. Whoever thought of how the TVA should look honestly deserves a fat raise. It would have been so boring if this place was simply just another Chrome City with flying cars like every Star Wars location. I'm glad I was able to give us something memorable. It almost feels like abstract art or modern art, which I actually hate. I took a class on modern art and I've never wanted to end my life faster, but in this show, I'm okay with it. Not only that, but the score in this show is phenomenal. I love the end credit song. It really builds up suspense and mystery with all the science fiction roots a guy could ask for. I think the show genuinely reawakened my love for science fiction again. Another thing great about this show is that it's different from any other Disney Plus show in that the characters don't suck. A lot of the best Phase 5 characters come from this show. It's really sad that the movies fail at this while this one show can succeed. Owen Wilson's Mobius is an obvious standout, playing a cheeky and by-the-books TVA agent. He works well off of Loki's chaotic nature, as they're forced in this buddy cop duo time travel space mystery adventure. That's a mouthful. Seriously, the chemistry between these two are so good. I think the show easily could have fallen apart if it weren't for these two leads killing it, and I think they made sure of that. As much as I praise this show for being unique, however, there are plenty of callbacks to the MCU movies in the first season. However, when they happen, they're usually small and insignificant. Sure, the show might be better without them, but I get it. Fan service needs to happen, and for the most part, it's done tastefully. And season 2 honestly completely diverges and really spreads its wings. It feels like they were more confident that this show would stand on its own and stop pandering to anything from the movies. Honestly, a contributing factor could be that the current phase of the MCU was dog water, but we'll we'll chalk it up to a weird coincidence. I could ramble about how great the world building of the show is, how much of a breath of fresh air the new characters have been, all the creative science fiction concepts, but I'll really hone in on what really sold me on the show, and that is Loki himself. You already know I didn't care for him. This show did something completely unexpected. Giving us a reset on Loki's character made people like me, who never cared about Loki, actually ride along with him on a new path of development. Loki gets far more development in a better paced amount of time in this show than any of his movie appearances combined. That might sound crazy, but I'm not asking for much, and these guys didn't overthink the assignment. They gave us a protagonist to care about and gave Loki a story that truly warranted the show. I could dive into what the story is, but I hope I can hold off and tell you, give this show a chance. It's not perfect. In fact, I'd say the weaker episodes are towards the beginning of the show as it tries to define its voice and genre. However, if you go in with an open mind, I promise you, it'll pay off. Season 2 is another great season that just wrapped up. While I do prefer Season 1 overall, I think Loki at its worst is still a creative attempt and risk that overall outweighs anything that superhero movies have been doing. That's another thing. This isn't a superhero show, and I hope you aren't expecting that. A lot of great visuals, surprisingly interesting characters, and a bright future for Loki. They have yet to drop the ball in my opinion. Maybe Marvel's really lowered the bar recently, but I was really surprised by Loki. It gets my seal of approval, and I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10.